Sir, step aside. Additional screening.
Oh, is there a problem?
Just step over here, please.
I'm Captain Richardson. My flight board's in 20 minutes.
Anyone can buy a costume online.
This is my crew ID. I fly out of this terminal.
Huh. Okay, sure. We're still going to need to verify this. Have a seat.
What's going on here?
Officer, this individual is refusing to comply with secondary screening. This agent's detaining me without...
In the next 45 minutes, one airline would face a 90-minute delay. A federal investigation would begin, and a TSA agent's career would end on camera. The man she told to sit down was not just a pilot. He was the founder and CEO of Skybridge Airlines. His company ran 18 flights a day from that very terminal. He employed over 300 people. And the airport security cameras, they recorded everything, every rude comment, every ignored ID, every laugh Stevens shared with her co-workers about catching a fake pilot. That footage would cost the TSA $3.4 million. Before I continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in power? Tell me your story in the comments. But Carol Stevens had no idea who she pulled out of line that morning. Captain James Richardson had been flying for 22 years. He started in the Air Force. He served 2 tours overseas. He got his commercial pilot license at age 24. 8 years ago, he started Skybridge Airlines with one small plane. Today, his company has a whole fleet. They fly to 12 different cities. They make $28 million a year. In 2022, they won Regional Carrier of the Year. Richardson has logged over 15,000 flight hours. That means he spent more time in the sky than most pilots ever will. Here is what makes this story even more wild. Richardson had special security clearance. It is called Known Crew Member, or KCM. This program lets pilots skip the long lines. TSA just scans their badge and lets them through. Richardson also served on a TSA advisory board in 2019. He helped write the rules for airline security. The gate agents at Denver Airport knew him by name. Other TSA officers had cleared him hundreds of times. He flew this exact route over 400 times before. On this Tuesday morning in March, Captain Richardson was just trying to get to work. He had no idea he would never make that flight. Now here is what made Stevens think she could treat him this way. Carol Stevens had worked for TSA for 11 years. In those 11 years, a pattern showed up again and again. She had 14 formal complaints against her in just 6 years. Every single one involved passengers of color. In 2019, she stopped a black business executive for 30 minutes. He had global entry clearance. That means he already passed extra background checks. Stevens ignored it. The man filed a complaint. TSA said they handled it internally. Nothing changed. In 2021, Stevens accused a Latino family of acting suspicious. Their crime? Speaking Spanish to each other. She got a formal warning that time. Still nothing changed. In 2022, she pulled an Indian-American surgeon out of the fast line. She made him prove he was really going to a medical conference. The surgeon filed a complaint. TSA said they could not prove anything. Nothing changed. Then, just 6 months before this story, Stevens stopped a black flight attendant in uniform. Same terminal, same excuse, same pattern. Her boss, Marcus Webb, wrote in her review that she had overzealous screening tendencies. That is a fancy way of saying she stopped too many people for no good reason, but he did nothing about it. Other TSA officers had a nickname for her style. They called it random selection. They said it with air quotes. Let me know in the comments, should 14 complaints be enough to fire someone? But this time, Stevens picked the wrong passenger, and this time, everything was being recorded. It was Tuesday, March 14, 2023. The time was 6:47 in the morning. Denver International Airport was busy with the morning rush. Business travelers moved through the lines. Flight crews walked to their gates. The security checkpoint handled about 200 people every hour. 3 TSA agents worked the priority lane that morning. Carol Stevens, Derek Mills, Patricia Huang. It seemed like a normal day, no special alerts, no extra security. Captain Richardson walked up to the priority lane in his full uniform. His 4 gold stripes showed his rank. His crew badge hung from his neck. He carried his flight bag and laptop. His flight to Salt Lake City was set to board at 7:15. He had done this same walk over 400 times before. Two pilots stood in line ahead of Richardson. Both were white, both wore the same type of uniform, both had the same type of credentials. Stevens checked their badges, she scanned them in the system, she let them through. The whole thing took about 30 seconds each. Then Richardson stepped up. Stevens looked at his badge, then she looked at his face. She did not scan his credentials, she did not put them in the system. Instead, she said two words, "Step aside." If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button right now. Richardson stayed calm. He showed his airline ID. "I'm the captain of flight SK447. We board in 15 minutes. Stevens did not look impressed. "Anyone can buy a costume, we need to verify." Richardson pointed down the hall. "The Skybridge counter is right there. They can confirm who I am." "That won't be necessary. Sit down." 5 minutes passed. Richardson tried again. "Can you tell me why I need extra screening?" "Random selection, it's procedure." "But those two pilots just went through without any screening." Stevens' voice got sharp. "Are you refusing to cooperate, sir?" "No, I'm asking for a supervisor. My flight boards soon." Stevens turned to her co-worker, Derek Mills. She laughed. "We got a fake pilot here." Mills looked uncomfortable. "Maybe we should scan his badge." "I'll decide what gets scanned." 10 minutes later, Richardson spoke up again. "I have 200 passengers waiting. If I miss this flight, they all get delayed." "Not my problem. Should have thought about that before wearing a costume." Richardson took a breath. "This is my airline. I own Skybridge." Stevens rolled her eyes. "Sure you do." 20 minutes in, Supervisor Marcus Webb finally showed up. Stevens smiled at him. "Found this guy trying to pretend he's a pilot." Richardson handed Webb his business card. He offered to call the airport operations director by name. Stevens jumped in. "Anyone can print a business card." A man named David Chen watched from the line. "I could see his credentials from where I stood. They looked real to me." A flight attendant named Maria Santos spoke up too. "She never even scanned his badge. That's the first thing you're supposed to do." Officer Huang whispered to Mills, "This isn't right." Stevens blocked Richardson from leaving the screening area. "You're not going anywhere until I say so." 40 minutes had passed. Richardson had missed his flight, and Stevens still had not scanned his badge. Type justice in the comments if you think this was wrong. What Stevens did not know was about to become very clear. At 7:32 in the morning, a woman in a suit walked up to the checkpoint. Her name was Linda Zhao. She was the airport operations director. She had gotten a call from Skybridge Airlines. They wanted to know why their CEO had not boarded his flight. Zhao looked at the screening area. She saw Richardson sitting on the bench. Her face changed. "James, what's going on here?" Stevens stepped forward. "Someone claiming to be a pilot. We're verifying his credentials." "Do you know who this is?" Stevens shrugged. "Someone in a costume." Zhao's voice got serious. "This is Captain James Richardson. He owns Skybridge Airlines. His planes are sitting on our runway right now." Stevens' face went pale, but she did not back down. "We were just following procedure." Zhao crossed her arms. "Procedure is to scan credentials first. Did you scan them?" "Silence." Zhao turned to Officer Huang. "Scan his badge, now." Huang took Richardson's credentials. She put them in the system. The machine beeped. A green light flashed. The screen showed everything. Valid known crew member, airline transport pilot, CEO of Skybridge Airlines. The whole check took 8 seconds. That is how long it should have taken 45 minutes ago. Witnesses started speaking up. David Chen, the businessman, gave his card to Zhao. "I saw everything. She made a decision the moment she saw him. I'm a lawyer, I'll testify." Maria Santos, the flight attendant, stepped forward. "Two white pilots went through right before him. Same badges, no questions. I saw the whole thing." Later that day, Officer Huang wrote an official statement. She said Stevens broke standard procedure. She said Stevens made comments that showed bias. The evidence against Stevens kept growing. 4 airport cameras had recorded the entire 45 minutes. The microphones at the checkpoint picked up her costume comments. The computer logs showed she never scanned his credentials. 6 passengers had recorded parts of the encounter on their phones. And flight SK447, it got delayed 94 minutes. 212 passengers sat waiting. 23 of them missed their connecting flights. Stevens tried to save herself. We were just being thorough. Zhao shook her head. Being thorough means using the system. You ignored the system. Stevens asked the question she already knew the answer to. Am I in trouble? Those cameras recorded everything. That's above my pay grade. Richardson finally stood up. He had been calm the whole time. I fly through this airport every week. Your officers know me. She chose not to check. He requested a meeting with the TSA Federal Security Director. He said he would be talking to his lawyers. By 8 a.m., Carol Stevens knew she made a huge mistake. What she did not know yet was that her random selection had just started a federal investigation. The footage was already spreading through the airport. Soon, it would spread much further. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done in Richardson's shoes? By 9 a.m., the TSA Federal Security Director heard about the incident. His name was Robert Harmon. He started an immediate review. The FAA got involved too. There are federal rules that protect flight crew members. Stevens may have broken them. The Department of Homeland Security opened their own investigation. Their Office of Civil Rights wanted answers. Investigators pulled all 4 camera angles. They went through the footage frame by frame. They enhanced the audio and wrote down every word. They checked the computer logs. The logs confirmed what everyone already knew. Stevens never scanned Richardson's credentials, not once in 45 minutes. Then came the interviews. Stevens, Webb, Mills, Huang, 8 witnesses from the checkpoint. Stevens told her story. It fell apart fast. She said it was random selection, but the video showed 2 white pilots going through right before Richardson. Same credentials, no screening. The selection was not random. She said his credentials looked suspicious, but she never looked at them close enough to know. She never scanned them. She said Richardson was being difficult, but the footage showed him calm and polite. He offered multiple ways to verify his identity. Stevens rejected all of them. She said she followed standard procedure, but TSA rules say you scan credentials first. Stevens skipped that step completely. Then investigators dug deeper. They pulled Stevens' screening history from the past 3 years. The numbers were bad, really bad. Stevens flagged passengers of color for extra screening 73% of the time. The average for other officers at Denver Airport, just 28%. Her 14 previous complaints suddenly made sense. They formed a clear pattern. The decisions came fast. Stevens was placed on leave while the investigation continued. Supervisor Webb got a formal warning for not watching his officers closely enough. TSA Denver started reviewing all their screening rules. The FAA confirmed that Stevens broke federal rules about protecting flight crew members. Richardson met with TSA leaders and FAA officials. He told them everything. He shared data showing how the delay hurt his airline. He did not ask for a personal apology. He wanted the system to change. He also said he was going to sue. Stevens' co-workers stopped talking to her. Officer Huang's written statement became key evidence. The Airport Workers Union said they would not defend what Stevens did. Skybridge employees posted messages supporting their boss on company channels. Within 72 hours, Carol Stevens went from TSA veteran to the subject of a federal civil rights investigation. If you want to see how this ends, make sure you are subscribed. Hit that button now. But the consequences were just beginning. Someone had been recording, and that footage was about to go everywhere. The video spread fast. By 10 a.m., a passenger uploaded footage to Twitter. The caption said, "TSA detains black pilot in full uniform, ignores his credentials." By noon, the video had 50,000 views. Pilots and flight attendants shared it with angry comments. By 3 p.m., it was trending under the hashtag Flying While Black. Views hit 200,000. By 6 p.m., local Denver news ran the story. That is when people learned Richardson was not just any pilot, he owned the whole airline. By midnight, the video had 2.1 million views across all platforms. National news picked it up. By the next morning, CNN covered it, MSNBC covered it, Fox News covered it, views passed 5 million and kept climbing. The final numbers were huge. Twitter had 3.2 million views and 89,000 shares. TikTok compilations got 4.7 million views combined. YouTube news videos hit 2.1 million. Instagram added another 1.8 million. People were angry, the comments showed it. One aviation writer posted, "This man has more flight hours than most of us will ever log," and she called his uniform a costume. A pilot with 30 years of experience wrote, "I've never had my credentials questioned like this. Wonder what the difference is." A travel blogger said, "He literally owns the airline, employs 300 people, and she made him sit like a suspect." Another pilot pointed out, "The known crew member program exists to prevent exactly this. She bypassed the entire system on purpose." TSA put out a weak statement. "TSA is committed to treating all travelers with dignity. We are reviewing this incident." Richardson's lawyer called the statement inadequate. Stevens deleted all her social media within 48 hours. She tried to reach Richardson through a friend. He said no. This story was shared millions of times. Share this video if you think others should see it too. 6 days later, Captain Richardson filed a federal lawsuit, and the amount he asked for sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. On March 20th, 2023, Captain James Richardson filed his lawsuit. He filed it in federal court in Colorado. He sued the TSA. He sued Carol Stevens personally. He sued her supervisor Marcus Webb personally. The lawsuit listed multiple claims: violation of civil rights, racial discrimination, unlawful detention, breaking FAA rules that protect flight crews, failing to properly supervise employees. During the discovery phase, lawyers gathered evidence. What they found was damning. They obtained all 14 previous complaints against Stevens. They found internal TSA emails. Those emails showed supervisors knew about her screening tendencies. They did nothing. A statistics expert analyzed Stevens' screening history. The numbers proved a discriminatory pattern. 6 other passengers came forward. They had similar experiences with Stevens at the same checkpoint. The total evidence filled 847 pages. 23 witnesses gave statements. The TSA had a choice: go to trial and let a jury see everything, or settle. They chose to settle. In September 2023, just 6 months after the lawsuit was filed, they reached an agreement. Want to know how much they paid? Here are the numbers. Richardson received $2.8 million in damages. His lawyers received $400,000 in fees. Skybridge Airlines received $200,000 for lost business. The total came to $3.4 million. But money was not the only part of the deal. The TSA had to provide mandatory bias training for all 340 employees at Denver International. They had to review their random selection rules across the whole country. They had to allow yearly civil rights checks at Denver checkpoints, and they had to publicly admit they did wrong. What happened to Carol Stevens? TSA fired her in September 2023. She cannot work for the federal government for 5 years. She had to pay part of the settlement from her own pocket. No criminal charges were filed because the bar for that is very high. Her boss Webb got demoted. He lost his supervisor position. He had to complete extra training. They moved him to a different airport. Richardson held a press conference after the settlement. "This was never about money," he said. "I have resources most people don't. What about travelers who can't fight back? What about flight attendants and passengers who just accept this treatment because they have no other choice?" He announced something surprising. He took $500,000 from his settlement and created the Skybridge Dignity Fund. The money helps travelers who face discrimination but cannot afford lawyers. Other airlines took notice. 3 major carriers announced new rules to protect their crews. The National Black Pilots Association called for TSA reviews nationwide. But for Richardson, the money and the policy changes were not the full story. At his press conference in Denver, Captain Richardson spoke from the heart. For 45 minutes, I was treated like a criminal, in my own uniform, in my own airport, at my own airline's terminal. He paused before continuing. I served this country as an Air Force pilot. I built a company that employs over 300 families, and none of that mattered because of what I looked like. Then he talked about why this case matters beyond his own experience. I have resources, I have lawyers, I have a platform. What about the junior flight attendant who gets pulled aside? What about the first-generation pilot who can't afford to make waves? They stay silent, and the system counts on that silence. He had a message for other workers. To every airline employee, every crew member, every traveler who has been through this, write everything down, report everything. Your dignity is not something you have to give up. He had a message for TSA too. Your officers have huge power. With that power comes responsibility. Random selection cannot be an excuse for discrimination. Richardson talked about what he wants to see change: mandatory bias testing for all TSA workers, real-time tracking of who gets screened, independent groups watching the statistics. He thanked the people who helped him. Thank you to the witnesses who spoke up, to Officer Huang who told the truth, to every person who shared this story and demanded better. He ended with words that stuck with everyone who heard them. I fly because I love it. I built Skybridge because everyone deserves to reach their destination with dignity. That morning, someone tried to take that from me. She failed. Captain Richardson's case showed a problem bigger than one airport or one agent. Studies show black travelers are more than twice as likely to face extra TSA screening. In 2022, TSA received over 3,400 civil rights complaints. Less than 8% led to any punishment. Richardson won because he had proof, money, and connections. Most people who face discrimination have none of those things. This case changed some policies, but the system still needs work. There is no required bias testing for TSA hiring. Screening statistics by race are still kept secret. One bad agent got caught, but what about the patterns that let her do this 14 times before anyone stopped her? So let me ask you, should TSA officers take bias tests before they get the power to detain American citizens? Should we see the data on who actually gets selected for random screening? Should it take being a millionaire CEO to get justice when your rights are violated? Because if we do not demand openness, if we do not track patterns, if we do not hold people accountable when they discriminate, then we are just waiting. Waiting for the next Carol Stevens, the next 45-minute detention, the next passenger who does not have the money or connections to fight back. Comment below if you believe TSA screening data should be public. Let me see where this community stands. If you think stories like this matter, hit that subscribe button right now. We are going to keep exposing these patterns. We are going to keep demanding better. We are going to keep fighting for dignity, for fairness, and for a system that treats every traveler the same. This is not just about one TSA agent or one airline CEO. It is about every security checkpoint in every airport in this country. It is about whether we accept a system that lets bias hide behind the words random selection. See you in the next one.